Well, there's always a silver lining.
Boom.
Good morning.
We're back.
Silver lining is we didn't hear Jake. That is a good thing.
YouTube allowed us to speak again.
Wow. You know, most times I'd be really disappointed with the way we started this episode and disappointed. But you know what? The universe had our back. That being said, this is a live show, and the whole purpose of the live show is get you involved. So please jump into the comments. We need your perspective to add that secondary element to the great content we got coming to you. But that being said, our docket of topics today, starting off with drunk monkeys. Oh, I said what I said. The animals out in the African Sahara are all getting drunk this time of season, and that'll make for a fun topic. Secondly, the government's preparing itself to shut down, and we can always get excited for the crew that's supposed to be representing us as they continue to steal from us. And lastly, we will end with the favorite. California is the dumbest state. All right. That being said, I can't do it with my co-host, my good friend, David Cunningham.
Well, I'm glad to be here. We got a full house here tonight.
Woo!
We got some audience members. We got Ricky over here. This is going to be a good show. I already feel it. You know, we might have started off just a little slow, but I think we got this in the bag here. Now, Brian.
Yes, sir.
How are you doing over here?
We got a couple weeks left of boarding season, and I got my trip planned out to Colorado. So,
Hey,
all right.
let's
Hey, well, before we bring in the transition, let's also introduce our good friend in the wing from Just Another Day TV,
Yes, sir.
our boy Ricky. Thanks for joining us, Ricky.
Glad to be here, boys. Glad to be here. Glad to be here. Happy week.
That's right. That's right. Starting off, and what's the weather like by you? Because the weather's great over here.
No snow. That's why I love Nantucket. It's always cold, but hardly snow. Snows today, it will melt by tomorrow because of the salt waters.
All
I
right.
can get excited about that. All right, Brian, let's bring it in the end. All right, let's kick this bad boy off. Drunk monkeys. Oh, yeah, I said what I said. In the months of February and March, there's this fun phenomenon that goes on in the African Sahara. Brian, without further ado, wait, before we get going, I think if it's February, March, and the monkeys are out here getting drunk, here, Brian, bring in this camera, so the middle camera for me and David. David insisted, he goes, out of all the bourbons on the shelf, I had to go to the under shelf because there's the secret shelf behind like the TV.
You did ask me what I wanted. I said, well, I want the most expensive thing you have,
Yeah.
whether I like it or not.
Well, that's the best way to do it. So going into it, we need to get drunk like these monkeys.
Exactly.
So we got our fruits. Jake and the Wings, our good buddy over here, brought out the clementines. We're going to be
fruit
filling
shots.
them up with the Weller Foolproof, which is a sight to be. This is something. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Wow,
Haven't
you
cracked
think
that seal in a while.
Yeah, right. You know what? You go first,
You know
please.
what? I'll do the honors. Do the honors here. Filler.
Ricky, if you've got something in the wings, now's the time to pour it.
Yeah.
Because we got to get drunk with all the fun little animals in Africa. I gotta imagine this makes for. Can you pour it into a glass? Are you that much of a? You're the monkey. They don't even drink out of.
Cheers. Or the monkeys.
Cheers, Ricky. Cheers. All right. Now, as I sip on my orange full of bourbon, Clementine, can you please bring in the monkey episode, the monkey clip here?
Yes, sir.
Marula trees are in full fruit. At first, the marulas are very tasty and hard to get at. You have to be either agile or strong to get your share.
I love that the monkeys. What will go through to secure a Malura fruit?
But after a few weeks, the marulas get overripe and they start dropping from the trees. Then all the animals wade in and gorge themselves on the rotting fruit.
Oh, they're gorging themselves.
It starts fermenting in their tummies and turns into a very potent brew. So on the way home, things start happening to them.
I just love that this is the best time. Here we go. First giraffes, wild boars. Everybody's just stumbling. It's just a party in the desert.
Imagine you're on a safari and a drunk elephant just stumbles into you. Where did that come from?
Yeah. Even the caterpillars are drunk.
Oof.
I love everybody.
That's a wild
everybody's-
animal kingdom right there, bro.
I can relate to that monkey. That was me last Saturday night.
Yeah. I just love the consistency. Like anything that eats fruits, but then you got to imagine this is like the lion's favorite time of year.
Oh, that's right.
Like everybody's just stumbling around, incoherent. Look at, they're making love. Oh yeah. It does the same magic for them as it does us.
That's probably the sequel to this episode.
It is true. That is true. What happens when you eat a drunk monkey?
Well, I can't. I'm not 100% sure. Is that secondhand drinking?
Well, so here's what I find interesting about this. So if you missed it, there's these special Malura fruits or Marula fruits. They blossom like at the turn of the year, January or so. And then by the time they're ripening and they're sitting in the hot African sun, they ferment and become like fermented sugars. It's like a wine. It's like you have a mead on a leaf or on a branch, and the elephants are shaking the trees down to feast. All the other animals are taking the scraps on the ground, and everybody's just hammered. It's like Mardi Gras in Africa. I don't know. So before I continue, what are your thoughts on this interesting concept?
Well, I want to take this a bit of a religious route. So, the basis of sinning is that animals don't do it. So that we as people are unique in which we sin for various different reasons. That tells me drinking is not a sin. The animal kingdom can do it and engorge in it. I think it's fine. There's no sinning involved in that. So that's probably the first thing that came to my mind on this end. Also, God, this must be a great year for poachers. get all the animals drunk, throw them out there. Oh, well, I get a couple new tusks. It's very bad. I think, you know what? I think the rethink tank is anti-poaching.
We don't think we know. We know we are anti-poaching. There is no discrepancy here. Do not
Come after us, PETA.
Do not scalp elephants.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, this takes a little interesting turn. I couldn't just leave us at the surface level of this fun, like fermenting fruit, but I did want to take it a minute and enjoy just a montage of drunk animals. Like there's something fun about that. But there is, because of, well, really, this is separate from it, but there is a climate shock going on in Africa. And due to that, there is and further red tape, because there's this huge restriction as a result of the droughts. There's a lot of this red tape forcing this new banana wine.
Oh,
And there's this huge craze now of an export of banana wine, and it's blowing up now across Africa, specifically because there were such restrictions on the borders of Nigeria that like southern countries have taken advantage of this new concept. One, my curiosity is, why did it take this long? Two, their bananas are not like our Monsanto nanners. Like they've got like little midget nanners that like they don't even have as much sugar.
okay.
So one, I don't know if you guys know that I've taken on this new fun endeavor of making mead. And to successfully ferment mead with yeast, you have to have like a ton of sugar. And actually you can't have enough sugar. You try to max out the sugar so whatever's left keeps like a sweet flavor to your mead. But that never, yeah, good point. I got to continue to drink my fruit.
Drink your fruit. But yeah, you can do. I've even seen they've done mead with Mountain Dew.
Oh my gosh.
Mountain Dew mead.
Someone at my work did that. And I'm curious how that even happens. Isn't that battery acid? Like, why did that not kill the yeast? Brian,
That I'm not sure.
Mushroom Man, we're coming to you.
Battery acid and yeast.
Why did the Mountain Dew not kill the yeast?
I
Well,
mean, I
wouldn't-
would think it would consume the sugar.
It would consume the sugar, but isn't that like a high acidic level? Wouldn't you
I
think?
think it's salt. That's the issue with yeast. So like you think like alcohol would
Yeah.
like kill the yeast too, like a real high alcohol content scenario. I don't know if acid. There might be acid resistant. It's hard to say. Well, if you ever open like
Must
a
be.
jar of like tomato juice or like tomato sauce, gets moldy over time if you just like leave it out. Probably a lot of that's the sugars. There's some yeast in there. If you ever get that hiss, yeah, there's some yeast floating around in there. So they must be acidic resistant, or it's not acidic enough. You maybe like Coke probably doesn't work. Mountain Dew, maybe just the right amount of not acidic to not kill the yeast.
So you're gonna make me go to my chemistry background because I'm a
Right.
corrosion engineer, and
Hey.
instead of the mushroom route, I don't think Mountain Dew is a strong enough acid as far as like the total acid, the free alkalinity, all the titration terms. It's not a strong enough acid to deter the yeast, and actually
Okay.
it would promote itself in a acidic environment.
Interesting. Yes.
Yeah, don't Google what can kill yeast. Nothing but yeast infection remedies came up.
See, and that's called being a Google doctor. So what's interesting is how a series of countries was able to adapt due to, climate restrictions and governmental restrictions, leading to a whole new way. Listen, what's the takeaway here? You're never going to stop people from catching a buzz.
No,
yeah.
you're literally not.
You won't stop them animals.
Yeah. Yeah, and nothing. But see, here's the curious thing. Do you think the animals enjoy like the effect, or is it just they eat to survive, and this thing that they eat to survive happens to, give them that effect?
boy, now we're getting philosophical here. I would have to assume they're probably not the biggest fan of, well, you're the biggest, you're like, you never go like, yeah, I really enjoy being drunk. It's when you're drunk, you're like, this is a great time. This is, I want this to happen all the time. And then when you wake up after drunk, it's like, oh, Jesus, why did I ever do this? How many times in your life you said, I'm never drinking alcohol? Probably a few. Has that ever happened? No.
No. I guess it's fair. This one we could bring to wrapping thoughts quick. Unless Dougie, pickle
Anything from the peanut gallery?
Yeah, that's it. I was gonna say pickle gallery. No, pickles have nothing.
Wow.
By the way, those are average sized bananas, not small bananas.
And they get the job done. Darn it. As for rapid thoughts for me, I just think it's funny, and it's akin to like the dolphins that chew sea anemones to like catch a buzz, or it's fun to open the door, but it's not even worth it. Like the curiosity as to why beings do that. Maybe before we wrap up, before you kick it to Brian, kick it to Ricky, maybe Ricky could philosophize for us on why people might go to catch a buzz. Like there's something to it. Like it's not just us. There's other forms of life that do it. And obviously people with like addictive tendencies, fall victim to that worse than others. But there seems to be an instinct for a vice, whatever that vice is. Mine's candy. And like everybody's got their thing that they gotta deal with. And it's an escape. So, it comes down to that philosophical question we've been asking forever. Why do people find the need to escape, period? What is with the human experience or the experience of life that makes us want to try to constantly escape? And the mechanism of, let's look at like the rat experiment. Everybody's heard of the rat experiment, where there's a whole bunch of rats in a cage and they had cocaine water.
Yep.
And when there was too many rats, not enough space, not enough food and everything else, mice would just drink the cocaine water to death. And then as soon as they had plenty of space, plenty of toys, plenty of resources, none of the rats even touched the cocaine water. So, I think a lot of it is a substitute. It's an easy, we call it an escape, but really it's an easy substitute for happiness. Last point, ironically, I listened to a clip of Pete Holmes's comedy special today.
Okay.
And the point he had was like, what a cruel trick our brain pulls on us. It's got all the goods in there, endorphins, adrenaline, like all the goods are up in our head. And what do I got to do? You're going to make me jog to get access to that? Like, why are you holding out? Give me the goods. And we have to like jump these hoops to access the chemicals and excitements that are just naturally in our brain. But also, there's an instinct or a nature to us where, the second all of our needs are met and we're happy, we fall so easily into complacency. So it seems like that's the necessary carrot to make you move. But sometimes the carrot necessary to make you move can be crippling. And, people want the easier way out than having to, climb out that hole. That being said, David, what are your wrapping thoughts? And then kick is Ricky.
All right. Well, I think you bring up a couple good philosophical points here. Why I think part of the reason why the endorphins are locked behind a cage here, not just always out. It's you like when we see drug addicts, or really just addicts in general, they're always chasing the next high, and they're always trying to replicate that first high, or one of the first more memorable ones they have. So that's always it's just the law of diminishing returns. Every time you do it, it's not going to be as good as the last time. So I just got to keep doing it to get a steady level of it. It's like with any addict, and endorphin addicts, there's just different ways of unlocking that mechanism. But also I think in the way you mentioned why we do certain things to escape life, when life in and itself is a beauty to behold. Oof, boy, we could probably have that could be a whole segment, that could be a whole podcast about why we do that. So, but at least my quick thoughts on that one. I think life is a lot about the absence of something, and because you have that certain part makes that, or because that absence exists, having that makes it sweeter to have. Like success, you can't just constantly have success because then you'd never have success. You can't constantly be happy because you never would actually be happy. So it's that absence that makes the heart grow fonder.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Ricky, I know you got a couple philosophical points on this one.
Oh man, I can't even be long because it's a lot of my background. But like, there's monkeys in St. Kitts getting drunk as well, stealing the tourists' alcohol beverages, and they found out monkeys go off after like their favorite color of liquor they like. So if you look that up on YouTube, St. Kitts monkeys, they go after monkeys as well. And not
Wow.
everyone is trying to escape. You know what I mean? You just it's it's enhance. Sometimes it's enhance. You want to enjoy yourself. You want to get a little more loose. It's an enhancer. Sometimes not everyone trying to escape reality. Reality is good, and you just instead of taking something hard, you just take up a little couple shots, and you be good. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's my rapid thoughts.
I like it.
All right.
Brian, wrap it up for us, boy.
I think there's got to be at least one animal out there that realizes that this fermenting fruit is turning into alcohol, and they're hoarding it away and stowing it off for later so they get more and more alcohol. But overall, I don't think that most animals are intelligent enough to realize what's going on or how they're feeling the way they're feeling.
No, it's definitely the lion. Easier kills. They're giving them the food throughout the year so they can just keep drunk monkeys dead all the time.
They might be smart enough.
It's true.
Oh, no.
What? Oh, I appreciate that. That being said, let's bring it to the next topic here. So the government's preparing itself to shut down. And I'm actually going to let David kind of take the helm at the beginning of this dialogue before I jump in with my thoughts.
So you may not know that the government is shutting down. I've been looking through all my little resources on most of my news outlets, and government shutdown. You really have to find it. So to give you a background here of what's going on, we have until about tomorrow to get a bill in place so that Congress and the House of Representatives, Senate, and the president can all go through the minutia to be able to sign this bill and pass into law before Friday. Friday the 1st is when 20% of the government, of the active part of the government, which includes like transportation, some of the military, some couple things here and there, like Department of Housing, those resources will stop pretty much immediately, or
Right.
those people will be furloughed or not paid. So currently, the government came back from vacation last Monday. So just this past Monday, they came back from vacation, and now we're gonna do this next song and dance. And
what are they holding out for?
that's a good question. The same things they've been kind of holding out for here the past several times. So border funding. So the big thing, at least the big talking point with the GOP Republican Party, is they won't sign anything without border funding in it. And then the Democrats, I haven't really heard too much exactly about what they're holding out for, whether they just don't want to give too much more funding or they don't want to cut programs, because it's the same. Right now, we're just in the same merry-go-round of issues and topics.
Did you guys see in the last 2 months, like 33,000 Chinese undocumented citizens that we know of, like we know of them and have a categorization of them, have illegally entered the country, and we have no idea where they are. No idea where they are. What's up, Doug?
No, I heard about that. They're saying it was like they're one of the highest non-Hispanic people coming from the southern border. Like it increased significantly recently, they were saying.
Right. So we all lose our cell phone service, and heaven forbid we even consider the fact that like 33,000 operatives with the intent, like, okay, the grid. I'm pretty sure like our Cleveland hub, at least for us in Brexville, I think that main one is right there on 77 in like Independence. There's like a big one right off the freeway. Do you know we could just throw a rock at it? Like just boop. Like if you had 3 guys that just had a mission, it's not like we've got these things guarded, and you just got to compromise a few of them. And then do you understand how networks work? So like if you take out major parts of our grid, or I don't know, just a few pivotal satellites, what do we think about this? So I was thinking about it. My parents have been away at our home in Florida. So I would be alone here with no way to contact anyone. And if the service is down or electricity is down, there's no getting a hold of them. I love mom and dad, but they have my dog, and that's the biggest priority. Is my dog is on the other side of the country, and now I need to go on a hunt with what, a compass? Like, I don't have an iPhone. Do you know, son, in 2024, can you get to Florida? Yes. Do I know how to spell Florida? I do. So I can get myself there. In 2024, when the grid is down or you have no electricity, what are you going to just start like rubbing a stick on a magnet and putting in a cup of water? This will take me north. Or, like.
There's some boomer that is probably going to watch this here, probably tomorrow, because they're not going to watch anything live, and be like, what the hell are these kids talking about? I've never used a map. You go down 75 and you're pretty much down in Florida. However far you want to go, the signs are still there. So here's I'm gonna have an opposite take of this. So we did have shocker, I know. We did have the grid go down for a good part of the day. There was no chaos. There was no people running on the streets. It was annoying. I'll give you that. It was annoying. I didn't know my work Wi-Fi password, and at that point I was a little too embarrassed to ask. So I just kind of sat there and did a bunch of work. Crazy. So we didn't see any sort of societal collapse. Now, Doug, to your point there, yeah, there are some other providers out there, but I think AT&T is a fairly major provider. Probably over 25% of the population does. Yeah, so we've had a good 25% of the population without cell phone service for, we'll call it 12 hours. Things were okay. Now they usually say societal collapse happens like what? I don't know, 24, 72 hours after the whole kit and caboodle does go down. Now, let's turn this back over here to the government aspect. So this is, if you haven't known, the 4th time we've had a government shutdown threat since we've started this podcast, actually. Which is right now we're going on a record, because pretty much anytime we have a budget constraint come up, it's now just a shutdown talk. And this one, there's just no news about it. There's just this is a very quiet government shutdown. We'll hit tomorrow, probably hit the news cycle for about a good 12 hours, and nothing happens. Okay, all right, the government shuts down. But here's the other thing. So next week, March 7th, that's when the next big kicker comes in, because that's the rest of. So right now, March 1st is 20% of the government. March 7th, I believe, is another 20 to 30%, might even be a little bit more than that. And that one covers major military, parks.
So what is the purpose of shutting these down? Like, why doesn't just Congress shut down? Like, why does the Department of Transportation need to shut down when a bunch of bigwig clowns should just stalemate?
The bigwig clowns are the only people that are able to actually fix the problem. It's in the Constitution. The Constitution does give the power to Congress and the House to make these budgets. The Department of Transportation head, USPS head, the General Postmaster, they don't have any power or authority to be able to do that. So Congress does have to. They do have to step in and solve the problem that they're currently causing, which is, you wish they would get, like, all right, every time the government shuts down, Congress, you no longer have health care for like 10 years. I think that solves the problem very quickly.
Right. That's what I'm saying. At some point, they need to feel the impact of their decisions.
I agree.
Now that being said, Ricky's out in the wing. Does he have something for us?
Yes, sir.
All right. So back to the Chinese migrants. So they are the fastest group growing, and they are coming through Mexico, going up to San Francisco, and that's the fastest way for them to file asylum, and they get workers permit within like a month. So I watched it on 60 Minutes. It aired 3 weeks ago. That was my
That is fascinating.
And
So-
I heard that that the Chinese government, and this might be a conspiracy, but the Chinese government is actually funding their lifestyle. Like they're giving them a card and
Yes.
giving them phone service and special privileges to cross the border and
100%.
and live basically off the grid, just straight cash money.
So how about this? One, yeah, they're Chinese operatives. That's for fact. And then the other's funny part is, so San Francisco, I'm glad Ricky brings them up because they literally, I think we've talked about this already.
1 second,
They have-
Alex. So it's not their lower class coming in. You have like teachers and
Boom.
all like professions coming in, and they're coming with phones and stuff, as Brian said. Like they're on video speaking English, like phone and everything in hand, but it's just a book bag and coming through with nice
and
sweaters.
Let's be real clear here. I think everybody in this room can 100% agree. Any person coming here with the pure heart intention of working hard, paying into the fruits of our society, and becoming a full-fledged American, I don't care what they look like or how they speak, I want them to be a part of our team. They have to sign the social contract. You pay into our welfare programs to get the benefit of those programs. I'm all for, if you pay into the system, you get the benefits of the system. We all want you a part of it. But we also need to recognize, what are we known as on the world stage? We are the sleeping dragon. We have the biggest sleeping military in the country. All the citizens are armed. And so, okay, if you know that the might of our military can really snuff you out, but then on top of it, domestically, you have a bigger fight than you would find in at least 90% of all the other countries. What would you do? You would have to Trojan horse infiltrate the sleeping dragon and infiltrate the communities that would also, while unorganized, still a militia worth your attention and can bring it down. So what's interesting, again, bringing it back to the San Francisco piece, this place is such a dump that they have a map that shows all the poop, because there's just human feces everywhere. It's just homeless people and feces. They have a poop map. And it got so bad that the poop map just covered the whole damn map. And then Xi Jinping is coming to meet with Joe Biden and his administration. And we all know he ain't meeting with Joe Biden, but he's meeting with 3-letter agencies that control this whole darn thing. And he met with a whole bunch of corporate heads at this one big function. Okay, well, that also shows us who the real heads of our government is, and it's these corporations. So I find it funny that you have this poop-covered town that you couldn't keep clean for the last how many years, biggest homeless problem in the country, and magically for a foreign dictator, you get the whole place cleaned. And we have this long time needed negotiation with a world power that's trying to bring us down. And the part of the negotiation back and forth is they demand us to definitely get rid of all the embargoes that we're slowing them up with and the tariffs. And in response, they may think about stopping killing us with the fentanyl problem. Because that's the other side. Not only are they sneaking in the Trojan horse of people, but then they're drowning us in this fentanyl problem that's killing people left and right. And that's admittedly now on the world stage being peddled by the Chinese operatives. So it's funny when they finally meet with us, the takeaway is like, oh, well, we'll think about it. And we're like, yeah, we'll do what you want. We do what you want. And like Ricky said, they're going straight into San Francisco. And not only are they getting welfare advantages from our government, but they're clearly being paid incentives by the Chinese government. For what reason? What, to become Americans? I don't think so.
So not to get too off topic here, but when talking about the government shutdown, they always release these big stories when they're trying to cover something up. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there is a bill trying to be passed right now, and they're calling it like a response to January 6th, where they're trying to make it illegal for militias to form. And they're defining a militia as 3 or more armed people. So if you and 2 friends wanted to go shooting, you're officially a militia, which they're trying to make illegal.
There's no way that'd hold up within the Constitution, just in general. She can't. You can't. That's one of those.
But
you know,
see,
we're not gonna,
you're right. You're right.
gonna-
In its core, and like you said on past topics, this is probably just a dog and pony show.
Yeah.
But like Jake's pointing out, it definitely doesn't say militia, but its purpose is to snuff that out. And that's where the debate on the floor is going to come in, is the language that it strictly uses versus the actual result it creates, which is probably, as we can
Also,
assume.
I don't trust our government enough to pass single issue bill, even if it's wildly against the Constitution. I'd love to see them pass single issue bill. Just try one, please. I'd love to see it. Let's get this momentum going here. So all they can do is just large omnibus packages to be able to push through these small little, just like we talked about, like the drunk driving provision. It's just these like 2 lines worth of minutia that gives this certain companies, like, I don't know, breathalyzer or whatever, certain opportunities, people, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions. And that's all they really need. I don't think they're really too terribly worried about Jim, Joe, Bob, and I going out and shooting some ARs out in their backyard.
Oh, they're worried about me.
They're much more worried
They're worried about me and my orange.
I think
They're
much
worried
more
about me.
about getting, Jimmy's car dealership an extra little boost, because now people got to buy new cars. That's what they're much more concerned about. I don't see. I think they don't want to govern via single issue bills. So that's exactly why they just want to wait until we go omnibus, and then we go, well, we're going to shut the government down, or we can pass this bill, and like Nancy Pelosi says, we'll find out what it is after we pass it. What does this bill say? I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, and Gerget talks about Chinese operatives coming in, like they'll be the real threat if something kind of happens, and, Pearl Harbor, it's a known fact. They had a Japanese spy there taking pictures of the movements of the base, locations of everything months in advance, sending it back. And like, while there were many other military failures that led to Pearl Harbor, they had all the information they needed there from that person sitting on a mountaintop taking pictures of a military base. And now we got China buying up farmland around some of our major military bases.
So we're saying these, just so I understand everyone in the crowd here, that these, let's use the initial number he gave, the 30,000 Chinese immigrants coming through the southern border, and China's giving them phones so that they can use. Now, are these phones that China's giving them on our network, on their next? I'm assuming
He said the Huawei phone.
I don't think those are allowed on our network. I don't think you can. I legitimately don't think you can buy a Huawei phone and have it work in the United States. So let's just say they're giving them all iPhones. All right, let's go all the way down here. So we got 30,000.
It's a Nickelodeon Pear phone.
Well, they make the iPhones. They should be able to give them to their people.
Yeah.
So they come here and they're gonna take pictures of secret military bases to do a Pearl Harbor on the United States from China. You think that's really wise for China to do?
Well, if you look at history, it constantly repeats itself. Yeah, Doug talked a lot about failures behind Pearl Harbor, but one of the main failures was they didn't believe anybody was dumb enough to attack America, right? If you look at America throughout history, the only thing we actually go actually crazy about is our boats. So when the Japanese, we thought, there's no real troops or planes there to the extent that our other bases have, they attacked our boats. Now, like I said, no one's you're repeating history. So you look at it like, oh, is anybody crazy enough to send operatives to America, and infiltrate? No one's dumb enough to do that. You're just watching history repeat itself. Basically, it's our next Pearl Harbor.
And so there is something to be said. Okay, so David, I feel the tug and pull. Well, no, not even that. Aside from all that, I feel the tug and pull inside you. You want to keep bringing us back to the shutdown itself, and we're going to continue to orbit that. We haven't left it behind, but I want you to take away an important highlight from where this dialogue continues to go. And that is, okay, you present the strong point that there will never be a time where there is a single issue. They will always take advantage of a prominent issue and sneak in ones that you're willing to compromise on for the sake of getting your main issue through. So we're always going to have this kind of sneaking of issues, piling on of issues. And I want you to take away this is we had a conversation last time. Are we being represented? Is this a democracy? Right.
Boy.
And so the issue that clearly weighs on the hearts of this room, and I'll admit this is just my room, right? This is my room of friends This can be an echo chamber. I'm sure there's other rooms that are polar opposites. That's why we need you in the comments, giving us some perspective and balancing us out. That also being said, there is a theme, and the theme is clearly the issue that weighs the most on our hearts, that we want our representatives to reflect in their decisions that represent us, is the border crisis. And there's something to be asked right now. Why is this not an issue of high importance for the people that this is like Texas? We already had this topic a couple weeks ago, but like Texas is out here suing the government because they go, admittedly, you have a contractual duty to secure our border. And it is almost as if you are consciously ignoring it. Dr. Phil, man, I wish I would have been this close to having it ready to throw at you to play. There is an awesome clip going on around right now. Dr. Phil was on Joe Rogan. So I got to hear the full spiel, 3 hours long. But then also, he's got to do his sound bites touring his new concept on like daytime TV. Dr. Phil is creating a whole new channel, entertainment channel, to promote truth and presenting facts without a biased twist. And that's what he's selling. He's on The View, and he's telling an anecdotal story that he also shared on Joe Rogan without backlash or fail. Just set it to, an audience of 15 million with no issue. But when he goes to 30,000 of cranky bitches and he explains to them how we as a government are funding trafficking with our taxpayer dollars. So he goes down and meets with the head of the Border Patrol. And the guy is like, oh, yeah, because of our, document and release program, we're bringing in folks that have kids with them. The kids with them have addresses written on their forearms, tattooed on their back, stapled to their sweatshirt. And we document them and then ship them to the address. And well knowing that they're being trafficked or, abused at whatever location we're taking them to. And so now we have taken on the middleman, the mule position of human trafficking with taxpayer dollars. And instead of even wrestling the concept, or if you disagree, wanting to push back, watching these squirrely robots in bras just like short circuit and like, what are you saying? What are you saying? And it's like, I couldn't be more clear. We're taking children to unsafe places with our dollars. And so, yeah, man, we're going to bring that conversation right back to where we need to for a fun political conversation. But the fact is, this is urgent. This is important. This is what's weighing on the minds of most Americans right now. And the only way to get a just resolution is what? Compromising on 15 other shitty issues or not passing it at all. And now I want to get to one point. Now let's talk about shutting down the government.
All right.
You make the acknowledgement that this is the fourth time in since we started the live show.
Yep.
So since September. That ain't enough, folks. And what does this do? Like when I ask you what does it do? Deep down, boiled down, it's we're starving the nation of its resources. They're still stockpiling it. It's not like the IRS turned off. They're still taking our money. Yeah. Every transaction you make, every person that dies, the money is still going. But we're not going to see any of it. So transportation gets shut down. Like you said, furlough or people get furloughed. Yeah. People get thrown out of their jobs. Roads aren't being repaired. Our resources are being starved. And that's what then forces compromise. And 9 times out of 10, out of starving desperation, it doesn't lead to a fruitful compromise. It leads to us just exactly where we started. So the American people get starved by people that aren't representing them. They continue to just get high off the hog. They're drunk on their fruits. And then we're back to where nothing was advanced. We're still in the pitfall that we were in before. So it bums me out when I go, so what are they even doing this for? And it has nothing to do with the people it impacts.
No.
It's just a game of chicken. It's kind of like, okay, if me and you were to play a game of chicken that would result in actual fruits, action.
Yeah.
You and I both would have to be suffering to actually that holdout to have any fruit.
Yeah.
So me and you go underwater and hold our breath. The game of chicken is who's the first one to pop their head out. That's not what we're experiencing. What we're experiencing is Doug standing next to me, Jake standing next to you, and we're holding their heads underwater. And we're looking at each other just dead in the eyes like, oh, yeah, I'll drown him. I'll drown him. Will you drown yours?
I'll drown him.
Well, and that's the game. We have no suffer. And if they both die, we go, morons. We still go on our
They
yacht.
shouldn't have voted us, but no. We keep doing this every single time. And let me Rick it. Oh boy, let me take this back to the border process again. I think we need to put more heat on not the Democrats, Republicans.
What?
Because we've had how many times has this been a hot button topic for Republicans with really no manageable progress to be made? There was some wall building by Trump. I think that's been just about the only thing. We had Title 42. That was really more a case of COVID versus
That was a
actual-
case of xenophobia, you
it was external factors, not our own legislative bodies going, hey, we can actually do this. We had a point in 2016, 2017 where we had three branches of government were all essentially under the power of at least the Republican Party, and there wasn't any progress made. The wall didn't make progress until towards the late term of Trump's presidency. If let's just say that was an actual like real good thing that happened, because in order for the wall to really work, it's got to be a full thing. You can't just make a partial wall because you'll just walk around it. So there wasn't a whole lot actually done. We need to ramp up pressure on the Republicans. Like, hey, no, you're just assuming I'm not going to vote for you because the other guy's a Democrat. But if you're not going to do anything, you don't deserve my vote. Also, probably where a third party really should come in, and they would earn the vote more than these other two parties like squabbling at each other. That's
That's why Texas took it into their own hands and put up their own barriers, and why they're now in a fight with the federal government because they did nothing and Texas had to do it all.
Right. So Ohio, Delaware, Wisconsin, Massachusetts, they're going to get starved of their resources because the federal government is not holding up their dually contractual responsibility with Texas as Texas suffers to hold down the fort for this entire nation. Am I accurate depiction here? What am I missing?
So you guys talk a lot about the military with the government shutdowns. Now this one hits a little close to home to me. I did serve 6 years in the Navy. It's not that some of the military shuts down. They all are actively still serving their country, except they don't get paid. Now there's promise of back pay, but they only pay on the 1st and the 15th. So if the government shuts down on the 30th and they reopen on the 2nd, the military members that haven't been paid for the 15th don't get paid again until the next 15th. So these people are the most underpaid organization in the government by far. I was an E5 with 6 years served, and I was making $23,000 a year, right? People complain military living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, but when you get paid nothing, you live off nothing. So the government shutting down, you have hundreds of thousands, not millions of people they're not going to know where the next meal is going to come from, because when the government shuts down, the funding for the bases, the food is provided by civilians. Those people don't come to work. The military doesn't eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also feel bad for those deployed overseas. They have no choice. There's not, correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of lose your rights as a service member if you're overseas.
You have no rights.
You have no rights as you protect our rights.
Yeah.
I did 9 months on my first deployment, 7 months on my second deployment. You're just there as a body, you doing what they say when they say it. But that's also military. You sign that contract.
Yeah. And I can't imagine morale is pretty high when government shuts down and you just know you're not getting paid. You have no choice to not be out there, and you're still not getting paid.
Well, if you look at the military right now, the retention rate's at an all-time low since the 90s. And that's because morale is non-existent in the military. You have poor leaders who get promoted because they just gobble up whatever political comes down from the uppers, and it makes a toxic environment. For example, I'm not trying to get too big of a military discussion with you guys, but 90% of all lower enlisted military, that's E4 and below, are living in black mold barracks They're eating food, and I have a picture if you want to see it. It says not for human consumption and institutional use only. That is the food being provided to the military, and they wonder why no one stays in. First of all, you eat food they don't feed to horses, and you have to live in black mold. Now, on top of the $23,000 a year, if you make it high enough, does that sound appealing? And
No.
they wonder why our country's falling apart.
And then you also may not survive, right? So you may just be
it's
giving
the
your
one
life at the end
job
of it.
where there's a chance you can die. I mean, sure, any job you can particularly like a heart attack or whatever, but it's the one job where someone expects you to die. You
Yeah.
know,
Knowingly put yourself in front of harm.
yeah.
Right. And the scary part is, truthfully, I don't know how many of these people catching a paycheck on our behalf, representing our name, takes truly the lives that are affected into consideration.
Yeah, and
I think it's
I
just
don't think they're humbled by the situations they're in too. It's like the majority of Congress, and I'd probably say even 90% of Congress they're very wealthy. They're millionaires before they even got in. I remember when the inflation stories really started coming up, there was a congresswoman, I forget which area, but she was out like shopping for bacon, just noticed, oh my God, bacon's so expensive. What the hell? And then she had like a big speech in the hall, like the next couple days after that. And all of a sudden Congress like, oh, wow, we respect her. We listen to her. These poors out here telling us food's expensive, but one of our respected few told us the food's getting a little more expensive. Maybe we should go on TV and complain about it a little bit. And I pass a bill that says the Inflation Reduction Act. A lot of things in that bill that don't really reduce inflation, but it's lip service. That's better than no service, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's one,
There's
hey.
that.
But yeah, I hate it because it's all political. It's a political game. That's what they're playing. They're not. This isn't. I think they knew exactly. Hey, we're gonna wait until we have all the leverage, and anymore with politics, because it is just becoming it's a one or two. It's A or B, black or white. It's one of these two choices. If there was a third choice, and having another choice isn't going to solve all our problems, but it's going to alleviate some of them, and it's going to prevent a little bit more of this. Because if you have a third party going, hey, these two don't care, well, I want to make sure I'm going to go here with these guys, that helps balance the scales at least more to the people. This is what this is all about. We the people, not we the Congress people. So I hate it, and we're gonna hit another one of these too. We're probably right before the end of the election, and this year we'll probably have another about 3 or 4 government shutdowns where it's just gonna come right back down to the wire. And I think this cycle is just gonna continue to keep getting more and more and more until we've already shut down. So there's no way. We went past the cliff, and I don't know. There's not a whole lot of repercussions. Can you remember any congressperson that lost a government shutdown that wasn't just like they lost that week or that month, but like legitimately, ooh, yeah, Randy's here, not in the government anymore because he shut her down.
Yeah, no, they've never felt the impact of their decisions.
So, Alex, I did send you this video on TikTok a while ago. I believe it's like an industry plant. It's a senator, congressman, I don't care which. He talks like he's your friend, like the government's shutting down and I'm doing everything in my power to stop it. You know exactly what I'm talking about. They do these things like they actually care, but they really don't.
It's just another psyop.
Oh, yeah, it's hands down a psyop.
Yeah, and oh, how about this? Okay, this is a fun little side. And Ricky, I'm going to be coming to you too. Okay.
Hi, Ricky.
So me and my dad are getting excited. Well, I'm getting excited for Shane Gillis to host SNL. So I'm hyping it up with my parents. I'm like, you got to watch SNL again this year or this weekend. We're getting back into it. It's been years since we've even entertained this thing. And the guy's low key selling out but he's also conquering the same entity. And my parents brought up Joe Rogan and Kid Rock trashing people that drink that are still holding out against Bud Light. And then I brought up how Shane Gillis is sponsored by Bud Light, and we're still holding out. My dad brought up a sports newscaster that brought up the point in refutation to Kid Rock and Joe Rogan, because they were like, the people that are holding out now, they're just dumb, they're just stupid. And my dad was like, I guess this sports newscaster's position was all the people that lost their jobs after being there for 30, 40, 50 years, the people that lost their job because some idiot pushed their agenda and made a poor decision. Like, what about them? They're not getting their jobs back. Like those are the people that people are holding out for. Like this had a big impact, and the choices they made, they need to resonate with them. But the question begs, like, at what point do you sell out? You know, my dad goes, these guys don't need the money. So like, why did they sell out? Like, why did Dana White spit in the face of Modelo? Modelo was there in 2001 when nobody was watching UFC at B-dubs, right? Like, it was just the trash, like, you know, outskirts type of sporting event that you'd find on Spike TV, and it was in the grunge. And Modelo carried you through that whole time. They were a backbone to the UFC before and while you got your feet up under you. So these guys don't need the money. So you didn't do it because you love it. You did it because paychecks talk, dollar signs talk. And the weird part is I'm in a different situation. I'm a nobody, blue collar, poor guy in Ohio. Joe Rogan got another $300 million contract from Spotify, or who knows what it is, but it's probably more than $300 million. Let's be honest. The last one was that. So these guys are just racking in the cash.
I thought he went to Apple.
No, he's still with
No, no,
Spotify.
no.
But there's a couple. I think there's a couple people that paid Spotify for his thing, so they can have it on YouTube. So you can just.
Well, no, he's always had the clips on YouTube. He is solely
now the full
show.
podcasts are going to be on YouTube.
Really?
Yep, they're not exclusively the video podcasts are not exclusively on Spotify anymore.
Interesting.
Yes.
So Spotify must not have paid as much.
Well, I think it's still all funneled through Spotify.
Regardless,
Yeah.
the purpose is this dude's got stupid money. So whatever Bud Light's paying you isn't necessary. Kid Rock, like you could do with that. But Kid Rock goes on to talk about how, you know, the Bohemian Grove man became best friends with the CEO. And so it's not even
Or even felt bad about shooting all the Bud Lights. That was one of the people first came out. One of the, if you call Kid Rock a celebrity, but he was a celebrity. He went out and he had that big video and like, no more, I'm done with Bud Light. And him and Joe Rogan are drinking Bud Light on Joe Rogan, who can't, there's not a social topic that Joe Rogan will not talk about on his podcast, is now drinking Bud Light again.
well, the thing that, like I was telling my dad when he kind of was like making a passing joke. What I will give Joe Rogan and Shane Gillis is they were low-key sponsored by Bud Light prior to this fallout.
Well, I think
But-
Shane Gillis was
No. He
Has
was
always
never
been-
sponsored
Was he
until
not?
he's an ambassador just a month ago.
Shane was
But-
always drinking.
He
He was
drinking
always
Bud
a
Light.
huge
Even
fan.
in the height of when it was very cool or very uncool to drink Bud Light, he was drinking Bud Light. So I got to
Right.
give it to him.
So again, I have no nicks to his position. Joe Rogan was already supported by them, but I don't hate Bud Light so much like that I wouldn't ever consider them. It's different because it's like, okay, I'm not mad at them for what Dylan Mulvaney is, like a trans person on a can. I don't care about that. My thing was spitting in the face of the people, your constituents, that have gotten you to the brand that you are after 20 years of dilly and what's it, the man law or whatever.
Bud Night. Well, Real Men of Genius.
Real Men of Genius, like to spit in the face then of that audience you curated. That's where I had a chip on my shoulder, is to say that audience you curated is now toxic. Okay, that's where I have a problem. Then also the fact that Dylan Mulvaney speaks to children and he has this weird fetish calling him, he was a girl. He was a 30-year-old man or 25-year-old man referring to himself as a little girl, like, or, you know, a 25-year-old person thing. But like he at least whatever, I'm confused. The person thing at least referred to themselves as, you know, but my problem is you're a girl. You're not 25 is not a girl. You are a woman. You're like 25th day of womanhood, not girlhood. Like it was weird. So I didn't like how creepy weird this person was, but the biggest piece was spitting in the face of your audience. If they came to me with $50,000, I don't think I'd be able to turn it down because that's
Yeah,
half an annual wage, and I wouldn't have the luxury that a man that gets $300 million can just brush
Say
off.
no, yeah.
So that being said, asking the room, I want to know what your thoughts are. After getting off the phone, Ricky, I want to get your thoughts too. After I get off the phone, I ironically come across this video of a content creator who was reached out to by the Democratic Party. They go, you say a lot of negative things about the Democratic Party. What would we have to pay you to start saying good things on your TikTok about the Democratic Party? And he goes, there is nothing good to say about the Democratic Party. They responded back with, we understand that that is your position. What would it cost for you to say good things about the Democratic Party? That's where I got this number. He responds with $50,000. They respond with, bet, we got you. So he takes the position, laughing it off. I would never. Can you believe this is what they were willing to do? But think about, and we know there's tons and tons of accounts across TikTok that have taken that payday. It's a very easy payday, straight cash to make fun, silly videos all day. But you then turn your back on your integrity. You then are not saying what you believe. You're saying other people's words. You may be pushing bad ideas. You may be creating social cancers, but you're coming out ahead. You're catching a paycheck. So before I kind of get on my position on it, let's go around the room. So we'll go David, then Ricky, and then Brian, and then Doug. If you were tossed this option, and I'm not, the antithesis to my heart is the Democrats.
Yeah.
Let's just say, for the theory's sakes, would you support the group that forces you to say the antithesis to your heart, the opposite to your heart,
Just the opposite in general. Yeah.
for $50,000?
$50,000.
And if not, what number?
You probably, well, oh boy. So this brings up a couple different things. So it probably assumes, or are we assuming that I'm in a position that, all right, well, $50,000, my word means enough that someone's going to pay $50,000 for it.
Well, it's contractual.
Yeah. So
And these are corporate businesses, so they will pay you.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be, we're not going to, I'm in a position, I could use a 50. I could use a 50 spotter.
So even if it results in a miner's wiener cut in half and inserted inside out, you're like, hey, but I got groceries this week.
Yeah, I think everyone's got a number. I guess it would depend on how specific, how nice I need to be. Do I need to go full turnkey? Am I now? So let's just put into some political lens. Like, I need to put the Biden hat on? Like, hey, hey,
that would be it. That was what the video was insinuating.
Age is just a number, really. I be quite honest. It's not that bad.
If
the
you
Queen,
speak gibberish, he's actually a great.
the Queen was almost 100, and she did pretty well. Joe's just a bit more in the limelight. He's fine. You could pull it off. Depends on how long. You could have a falling out. You'd probably be shocked how many people have some sort of influence, even if it's probably not even monetary. Well, that's probably the best case scenario. The other case would be, well, hey, I'll come on your show, and well, if you don't start talking about the Democrats in a higher light or whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean one way or another. But if you don't start doing that, I'm going to stop supporting it. Or you have like reviewers, like video game reviewers, movie reviewers, people that get like access, or like people who are in like sports, like in the locker rooms. And if you're not going to say nice things about me, I'm not going to let you in.
Right.
We've seen this in all sorts of different places.
So I'm never going to be in LeBron's locker room. Is that what you're saying?
I'm
I'm never going to be in LeBron's locker room.
I think there's a
Oh,
lot of places
shucks.
you'd rather be than LeBron's
Well,
locker
technically, if you have a media pass, they can't turn you away. Like
That
whether or
is
not they
true.
agree with you, you're allowed to be there. Like that's been multiple things in the NFL and NBA. Like the media has like complained about not getting in. They go, if you have a pass,
Unless
you
you're
have to be
banned
in.
like Dave Portnoy.
room. Yeah,
Like, it
depends. Like
takes-
they can, and who controls the pass. Like if LeBron, you might be able to get away with it once, maybe
Right.
twice, until LeBron goes, I don't want this kid near me. ever." And next thing you know, you're no longer part of the media. It's easy come, easy go, I guess.
Oh, shucks.
But yeah, we see it in all sorts of different aspects of our life. So to put a dollar figure on it is the best case scenario.
And your dollar, you're fine with 50. He's fine with 50.
I mean, I negotiate. I'd probably negotiate. Like, well, if 50
if you were that quick with 50, I'm trying to push it up. But,
yeah, try to go. But yeah, if let's say it starts at, let's be a little more realistic here. What's my word worth? $20? I'll take 50. I'll take 50. Yeah, I'm probably not gonna take $20 for someone to say like, hey, say nice things about the corporate state. Probably not. 50,000? I get, Apple's doing some great things. I think they should have more power.
All right, Ricky, what are your thoughts? You selling out or you holding out?
As David just said, everybody have a price, man. But I want to know how much I gotta say and how far I have to stretch. Like, how
I imagine
favorable
for
do I have to be?
$50,000, they would say bi-weekly, so 2 to 3 videos a week.
And you probably need to go
How long?
up into the election, then a little
For a
You
year.
got to go past inauguration.
Oh, nah. 50 for a year. A lot of people ain't making 50 for a year.
Right?
But
what if it's 6 months?
If I was
I'm
like
making
very
$100,000
on
in
the
a year.
opposite side, like
I'm sorry, say that again?
if we're sticking to politics, and I'm very opposite on the side, I can see being more moderate if they would agree to that. But to
Well, I think
switch, I'm gonna lose my support base, and there's nobody to preach to overall.
Or you might get a whole new support base. Now they're gonna push you on their
But-
platforms. I mean, hell, I keep your 50 grand. I want 50,000 followers.
Engaged
But
followers,
that new followers ain't gonna keep me going as long as I want to after this contract. You know what I mean? I can't fully sell out.
That's fair.
I can go moderate. I can't fully sell out. But if it's like some other like brand, like from like Nike to Adidas, oh yeah, fork it over. You know?
Yeah, that's a good question. Back to like the Bud Light thing. What would it cost for me to wear Nike outwardly broadcasting like
That would
support
be-
for Nike?
I think you'd probably rather.
You know what? You know what my cost would be? My cost would be Colin Kaepernick on the Rethink Tank. I'd go, you just got to get your shill on my show. Keep your money. Let me, unfiltered, talk to him. And they'd go, no.
Well, because no
Save
way
the cash
Colin
cow.
would do that either.
What?
No way Colin
What?
Kaepernick would come
No,
on
you got to
either.
just pay whatever
Yeah,
he
pay
needs
him.
to be enticed. Like, get him in my chair. Not to mention, you own him. You own him, Nike Daddy.
Yeah, okay. So, but what if they was like they give you the Rethink Tank commercial to combat the Kaepernick commercial, and give you all the incentive as well?
My commercial would say they'd have to let me. This again, I'm willing to compromise. I'm here to negotiate Satan brand, but I would say my Rethink Tank Nike commercial would have to be a sponsored ad advocating that football is not slavery. Now you got it. You got it for free. That ad
Fucks with that.
sponsored by Nike. Football is not slavery. Sorry, we were stupid. Just like SNL. Give me a sorry we were stupid ad, and you're in. And
I fucks with it.
and you'd have me excited. Like, I would do that shit for free. I would be so thrilled to wear Nike and a sorry we were stupid. And give me a Gillette. I would do Gillette. When they did
You'd be smothered in all the.
Oh, I know. Men, when they did the toxic masculinity commercials, it's like, did you forget who shaves? So I would do a Gillette commercial. Men are allowed to be men. Just that's the commercial, and that's it. The Rethink Tank. I would do
You know
it.
what? Set the scene. You're in the forest. It's just a sink, and you're just shaving. You know what I mean? Men allowed to be men, right there. That's a great commercial, right there. 7 seconds.
The clear takeaway is there's a price. There is a price.
There's a price. There absolutely
Some are
is.
dollar bills. Some are Colin Kaepernick. Your thoughts?
I think this is a lot like the question when you said if Adolf Hitler got a streaming service for playing the role of Anne Frank, how much would it take for you to pay? If it was a penny, would you still pay that penny to watch it? I think it has a similar philosophy vibe.
Wait.
Because you're
Bring that
going
back.
with
Hey, put-
Bring that back to us over here. When did we say that?
it was months ago. but it's similar track philosophy of like
someone's got to
'cause-
pull that up. I do not
All right.
remember that
No,
at all.
I'm taking the
Go to
the
the
mic
tape.
back. So it wasn't this episode.
Here's the deal.
was
Someone
months
throw the
ago.
red flag. I just want to emphasize. I'd pay.
Shocked you weren't canceled right then and there.
Oh, come on. Canceled. I'd pay way more than a penny to watch Adolf Hitler play Anne Frank. That might actually be what saves the world. The whole world is saved by this dude, this goon, doing some introspection as he's just writing this journal in a closet. And he's like, I did this to this poor little girl. And then he finally goes, put down your barrels. This was the dumbest thing I ever did. I would pay big bucks for that. Anybody got a time machine?
I left it at home.
shucks.
Maybe next week.
All right, finish your thought about pennies being paid towards Adolf Hitler playing Anne Frank.
The support of an opposite opinion, how much would it pay is where I was going with that, and you made me lose my train of thought. So I'm gonna just
Dougie, how much
you gave
would
us
you?
a better train of thought, really.
I am here to chug along on that track. Dougie, what would you do it? Would you do it?
Are we talking Bud Light specifically? Like bringing
All
it
right,
back?
so
Are we
how
let
about
me
this?
throw
How
it
about
out
this?
here. Let me
I'm
throw
going
it
to give
out
you the
here.
specific one. I sent the video of my dad, 50 grand to be a
DNC.
Democrat operative. My dad, one word, yes. So I was like, oh my God, even my dad sold out. So what would you do?
So 50,000 is a lot. You know, that's like
That's a
what
lot.
I make in a year. All right. But to sell my soul to something like that, I don't agree. Because in Ohio, you have to register as a party to do the primary. I usually switch based on who I want to beat the other person. You know, like if Joe Biden had an actual opponent, probably would be voting for that opponent. You know, Nikki Haley is Trump's opponent, although it's not looking good there. You know, I usually choose it that way when it comes to the primaries. $50,000 sell my soul to the Democratic Party? No. Now, do I disagree with them completely? No. But I would want $50,000 a year for the rest of my life, or a straight up front of $1 million. Because you know what? They have the money. If you see what some of these super PACs
Exactly.
spend, they have the money. 50,000. They're that quick to come back at that. I'm going 1 million. Now, if they don't go for that,
1 million.
we can talk down to 500,000. But if you agreed for that so quickly, you clearly are desperate for some help.
So I
Bud
love
Light,
that.
though, there are
Facts.
too many alternatives to Bud Light. Too many alternatives. So my thing is not necessarily, oh, I never want to drink Bud Light again. It's just there are so many alternatives. You know, a Miller Lite, Coors Light, anything. And then, you know, if I want to be sponsored by a local beer, buy a beer brand, I want Fatheads Brewery. I love that Bumbleberry. Love me the Fatheads Bumbleberry. So if someone at Fatheads ever watches this, I will sell my soul to Fatheads for a free lifetime supply
But
of
see,
Bumbleberry.
This
I don't know if
is
it works that
where
way.
the philosophical question comes in, because it doesn't take incentive to dive in head first to the brand that you already want to bolster. The question. So, like, the perfect example for me, you have no idea how giddy I got this weekend when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. started, you know, tickling the taint with Tulsi Gabbard being
All right. I was wondering
the
where to go with that.
VP choice. And I got to tell you, it was the most exciting piece to my weekend. And it's like, don't taunt me. And he did a couple of them. Like, you ready for a Tulsi versus Camel Lady rematch on the debate stage, or is it not even a match at all? And it's like, oh my goodness, let's do this. And then Trump, just to throw a monkey wrench in the gears and ride the wave and momentum, was like, I think there's reports that, you know, she's gonna be my VP. And it's like, yeah, okay. But here's the takeaway: whoever she picks is gonna be the one. I think that'll be the one that everybody has full-fledged support for. Hoping it's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That being said, in a world Tulsi picks RFK Jr. or even Trump, but it ain't gonna happen, I pray. But if it becomes Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and that's my pick, and Tulsi, so now I'm getting paid $50,000 to support Camel Lady and
Joe Biden.
Weekend at Biden's. Bernie's. Weekend at Bernie's.
We can burn this.
I would, because here's the thing, the ripple effect, like the scary part is, and this is where my dad's getting so mad at me, right? Because this is a very bad survival choice, economic choice, long-term decision. But, we just, life after, like existence after life is probably exactly what it was before life. I want to believe that I go into this other heavenly divine, but it's just as likely. Do you remember what it was like before you were alive? Yeah, no. So it's probably going to be just that. And so if that's what this experience is, it's just a flash in the pan, and then I go back to nothingness, like, then clearly this experience is bigger than me. So my comfort, my security is nowhere near as important as the overall, the maximum, like John Mill would always say, utilitarianism is always improperly defined, but it's maximizing happiness for the most amount of people. So, like, the goal is just, is it better to get my overly satisfaction and happiness, or ensuring the long term and more grandiose happiness for more people? And again, it's so much easier to be said. Listen, I could say that behind a microphone when Nike's not giving me awesome commercial options and the Democrats are not coming to me with $50,000. Obviously, a real consideration has to be made when those real life instances are brought upon you. But this is the instant, and this will be my wrapping thought. No, it won't, because we need to get back to the government closing. I'm shutting down. I have a wrapping thought for that. But the reality is this: even then, when you're presented with that option and it's super easy to go, or maybe not, but you result in going, yeah, I'm taking the payday. It's still, at least if you have a moral compass and this thing, this life, this flash in the pan matters to you, then, like, the instance where the experience, living it through your eyes, is saying, yeah, Tulsi Gabbard bad, Camel Lady the move, that is going to feel like a key down the side of a car. Like that instance when, and some people can swallow that. I don't think I have that ability. I think even when I say the yes and then I start doing it, very quickly will I default on that contract. Now, we all heard from the room. That was a fun little roundabout, but just to wrap it up, and when it comes to the shutdowns, this is the problem I have. Jake, before he had to dip out of here, the military man, was bringing up how morale is practically non-existent in the military. I think morale is pretty much dead in the country. Patriotism was made racist, and now the one thing, the nationalism, the fabric that united us, we've completely dissolved that, and we're experiencing the symptoms that come of that poor experience. But I just want to acknowledge one piece, and these are the people that are at the helm. These are like, if you, first off, we don't tell you how much you owe us in taxes. Like, you're not just given a bill. We go, figure it out. And if you're wrong, we're going to throw you in jail.
We
So-
know we want you to tell
So
us.
how about this? Overpay and just let us give it back if we feel happy. So those people are the same people that for the 6th year in a row, the Pentagon has failed its annual audit. The result is not a surprise. The Department of Defense's assets are vast and decentralized, amounting to 3.8 trillion alongside the 4 trillion that has just disappeared. So,
Well, real quick, did you know the Marines were the only branch to pass, and it was the first time ever?
well, that's
The first
impressive.
time ever.
Yeah, the Marines actually
Ever.
passed an audit. Go Marines! Only branch in history to
Not the
pass
first time in
an
10
audit.
years. First time ever.
But again, how about that? First ever in history. That goes to show, okay, we're not allowed to say military industrial complex. I see, I didn't even say the word, the military industrial complex, right? You can't say it because they're listening and they're on top of us. But there is a mechanism that billions and trillions are invested in war and perpetuating that war and financially benefiting from it. So they're throwing money into military spaces and have no idea where it goes. So it's going into private contracts. There's people that are benefiting from this, and we have no idea where that money's going. So when you start threatening, well, in the consideration of closing the border and getting necessary funding to, resources necessary to the country, we are going to shut down the government, halt payment and resources to the people and other departments of the government. And these are the same people that are trillions of dollars into failed audits. Like that's my wrapping thought. What that it starts and ends with that. They better not shut it down. And when they do, we need to start taking note of this. We need to start demanding more. We need to start taking a stand, because I loved David's point at the beginning of this thing. They need to feel the impact of what they're doing, and they aren't. So whether that's, well, for every time that you shut down the government, you go a few years without your medical benefits or whatever it may be, there needs to be an impact that they feel.
Congress still gets paid.
Right.
Like the laws don't apply to Congress, so they don't give an F. Like the Obamacare, they're on their own insurance, the government insurance, completely separate. Congressmen are like excluded from all the laws they pass, and they get all these extra benefits. Like they don't care because it doesn't affect them. They still get paid even if the government shuts down. They're the only people who are still going to get paid if the government shuts down.
That's great. I agree. David, wrapping thoughts.
So one thing, so you brought up something real nice, Doug. Congress is not they're not held to the same standards we are as citizens, or even as some companies are. So what we're going to see here too, Congress people can buy, sell, trade stocks, and they can short sell. They can do all sorts of different things with the markets based on some of the insider information they have. So it'll be a really curious idea. In about 30 days from Friday, we'll find out which members of Congress shorted different parts of the U.S. economy. Different stocks, S&P 500, all sorts of different.
You mean they could have shorted it? They're not all brilliant monopoly economists?
Nope. They somehow beat the S&P 500 constantly, or at least the ones that participate the most. There's somehow a few that don't be like. You don't even deserve my vote if you can't even take the insider knowledge you get. And I guess I'm assuming you don't have insider knowledge. Either that, or you're just not smart enough to pounce upon that. Wild, absolutely wild. But anyway, we'll find out. I'm sure there'll be a list, because this is one of the few laws that I really love is they all have to be at least somewhat transparent about what they do with their stock portfolios. If they buy, sell, and trade, it has to be 30 days. They have to report it 30 days after it's actually happened. But 30 days from now, we're going to find out pretty quickly who shorted, and whoever shorted infers that they either know the government's going to shut down. They have incentive for the government to shut down, because that's going to lower stock prices. So there is, they're not working for us. In fact, they're actively working against us. Again, assuming they're doing that. Let's hope they're not. Let's absolutely hope they're not. But I bet a few of them are going to weasel themselves right through there.
You're probably very right.
Yeah.
Brian, or actually Ricky, wrapping thoughts on government shutting down.
Yeah.
As I always say, man, it is politics, not politics. They never have our best interests. Like, no matter who you have go in the office, they may go in there with pure heart at first, but after a while, it's the same revolving door. And democracy is the best thing I see go around the world that's happening. You know what I mean? So,
Exactly.
but it's like a loop we're in right now where it's the same thing they're doing, shutting down the government. I've been going through this since Obama was in presidency. My first shutdown, I remember, was in high school.
Yeah.
And that's when I first knew about it. And what is going to change it? I don't know. What policies they're going to create to change it? Nothing, because everything benefits the elite. So we're just in a cycle, man. Until it collapses, we're just going to be lighting up the stream waves on YouTube and all platforms.
Hey.
Yeah, well put.
Brian, rapping thoughts.
I think I first I think I think you said Charles Manson play Anne Frank. It was months ago. It was very first beginning podcast show.
That's
Those are very different things, man.
And I also want to double down. They came from so very different worlds. I find it hard to believe Charles Manson was either playing Dan Frank or was.
Well, it was a whole philosophy thing of would you watch it if you were offered to pay a penny and you said no, because why would you support someone like that? Is
Wow,
where I
dude,
was
we
going
say
with
a
it.
lot of things on
a lot
here.
of things.
And
See, this comes back to the
where I
Shane
was-
Gillis piece. Like, you're gonna find something. Dig
Yeah,
long enough, you'll find
where
something.
I was going with that is like you just like supporting the opposite is not philosophy good for your look, and it's just not good overall. And I think the trafficking laws, the sex trafficking laws that are being pushed in the bills hidden is a terrible thing. And I don't want to be an echo chamber on the rest of the stuff.
Hey,
I think all that stuff is pretty bad.
No one likes
so.
circle jerk.
well, let's wrap this on one fun topic. California is the dumbest state. We can't say that literally, but we can point to graphs that indicate it at least slightly. We have here by Newsweek. There's a map that Brian, if you could bring up the article here. The map reveals how the states with the most high school dropouts, and it's predominantly the big states. You're looking at California's first, Texas is next, with New York following behind. I mean, there's something to be said about the more rural states have less dropouts, right? So this is a discussion on the most dropouts. So you're looking at Alaska, Hawaii, Central America, or Central United States.
Yeah.
So these areas, it's not like you can drop out and go anywhere. Like, where are you going to go in Alaska? Where are you going to go in Montana? Like, you might as well finish high school because you're here and you're going to stay here. You're not going anywhere. Whereas in California, New York, Texas, there's a lot more options that could, take you to heights of success without needing to continue your education. But let's also, that's a fun little anecdote for maybe college. College has become modern high school. So like you need a college degree just to be a player in the social or in professional market. So these people that can't even finish high school, that's saying something. And these are the numbers that are dictating the attitudes and opinions of the country, right? Like that back to something I champion more often than you guys are willing to hear. But this is why we need an electoral college, because all the dumb A's with the most dropouts are the ones that are going to be telling us how we need to, run this country. What are your thoughts before I continue down the road?
Well, so part of it, you're going to have correlation with the largest population. So just like there's the most amount of Republicans in California over every other state, there's probably the most amount of poor people in California. I would bet quite a lot of money if we look into who's dropping out. It's probably those underprivileged and those are probably on the lower end of the income spectrum or like families and such. So you see like Maine has a real like that northeastern part of the United States has like they're very blue. A lot of people graduate from those areas, and that's where you get a lot of affluent areas, and they're I think rural, like really kind of like the real Midwest rural. Not so much like the Southern rural, but the Midwest rural. I think it takes a lot more resources to be able to have a family there, sustain a family there. So I'm assuming that correlates pretty well with a lifestyle and like an infrastructure for like a family infrastructure that wants to keep you in school, wants to keep you educated. I'm actually a little bit surprised at California since it is like there's the most. I think
Right?
them in New York have like the most amount of like millionaires and billionaires like per capita.
But you know what? I don't think this is a reflection of the quality of education. Like,
No.
because you graduated doesn't mean your state is providing
I
the
was thinking-
highest level of education.
I was thinking on the other end where there's just more millionaires, so it's going to outweigh some of the the
lower income.
the lowering or
right.
or the people who do drop out. So you just because of that aspect, and like California is the richest state in the union, so you'd think that might outweigh a little bit. Florida's a little higher than I thought too.
I have to
actually
recognize
quite
that
high.
too.
It's more. I think it's more. California offers so many like subsidies and public programs. That's why that state is in the highest deficit of any other state, which is why they're having all these financial issues. They keep giving more money out than they're making. Well, these people are like, I don't need to. My mom is raising 10 of us together in California and we're getting all this state money. I don't need to graduate high school, you know? Whereas like Texas or California's just giving out so much. Now, what's odd is Texas is they are not California when it comes to those policies. So like that doesn't
Also,
hold any
let's
weight.
acknowledge the immigrants in these locations, right? Like they aren't, they
Well-
may not be documented or they may not have a structured home.
My
to follow
question is,
through.
are they part of this study? I don't know.
That'd be the thing you probably need to look
That's
into.
a great point.
I-
Well, no, but I think this study, based on what I was reading, is based on enrolled students in public schools
Which would
who
include
do not
then
reach a
illegal
diploma.
or legal. Is it
Right.
they're
Just
enrolled?
those at the
period,
school.
just enrolled in the state. Yeah,
Which
so then
explains
that's-
why California, New York, and Texas would be ones impacted by this. Okay, mom and dad get deported. I'm having a rough time compared to the kid in Ohio, like in terms of how am I getting to school tomorrow and having a lunch and everything else. And I like Doug's point too, also about the welfare programs available. But before Ricky, what are your thoughts?
Doug said it, the funding, man. If you don't feel safe going to school after a certain while, especially in the hood and stuff like that, you're just gonna stop going to school. And if your textbook, you can't read the pages out of your textbooks, or you're not getting tablets and have enough functioning computer, you don't have a library in your neighborhood. Those are all like public funding that can help, other people and stuff like that. So it goes into funding. I feel I'm just saying funding, especially
I got
California.
another
I know for sure-
They divert their funding to a lot of other programs than education.
But I think there's one other thing too that we probably need to acknowledge as well. There's a lot of, for every like opportunity in Texas, I think there's like double the amount of opportunities in California. It's like Hollywood.
Right.
So imagine how many 17 to 18-year-olds are going,
I'm dropping out for this role.
I might have this gig. I might be intelligent enough and responsible enough to actually finish high school. I'm going to drop out because I might have this opportunity here in California with Hollywood, and that's very unique to just that one location. You might have a little bit of that with like Broadway and New York City.
Well, and
but not
I'd
to the
also
near-
like to see this graph counterbalanced with GED scores. What were you going to say?
GED score. Yeah, because this is college dropouts.
High
It's
school
probably
dropouts.
our high school dropouts. It's probably not counting those who came back and took a GED because that's different than graduating with a
Exactly.
diploma.
Correct.
But like Ricky brought up a good point there. Like the chances people have, the opportunities that are around them. I am pretty sure California has to supply probably free Wi-Fi to families in need or have free Wi-Fi area because Cleveland has programs that you can get free internet or subsidized internet if you're low income. So California, with all their money they're spending on these programs and all the big tech companies that are there, I have to believe they can probably get free internet if they tried.
Dude, how
Oh,
many
and
kids-
also family, bro. Family.
right.
You don't have a strong family structure. That's a main part in there. I feel as well.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And how many of these kids are, one, experiencing a rough background, whatever the case may be. But also I don't know, Doug, you raise an interesting dynamic there. But I want to acknowledge that in 2021, the highest level of education of the population of age 25 and older in the United States was distributed as follows. 8.9% had less than a high school diploma or equivalent. 27.9% had a high school graduate as their highest level of high school or highest level of school completed.
27%.
27.9. So you're looking at
Interesting.
about 28%. About 14.9, about 15% had completed some college, but not a degree. 10.5% had an associate's degree. 23.5% had a bachelor's degree, and 14.4% had completed advanced degrees such as master's, graduate, professional, doctorate. That being
Is
said,
this overall you're saying?
this is overall. This is
Wow.
the United States.
By people
but
above
do you
18
see-
We're part of
class.
25, like 23% of the population then, Alex.
But do you see
Well, the
that
second highest percentage wise.
right? But also that goes to show the tiered manner of this country. I disagree with you. It does not show like it isn't just 27.9% who have a college, who have a high school degree. You need to add to that 27.9% the 14.9% who completed some college.
Yeah.
That means you started college and didn't complete it. So you're looking at about 40% of the population is below that tier. And that's what I was saying is the college degree has become what the high school degree was for the boomers, for our parents' generation, because everybody's got a high school degree. So I agree with Ricky, back to that point I wanted to make earlier. Like, yeah, dude, I hear you about a gig in California. You got a rock band that's going to go big, but are you going to also, you're going to be super rich, super influential. You're going to speak for millions and have such a pivotal role in our country. This is going to be the philosophical side of me, because if I was in charge, this would be my ruling.
Okay.
If you're going to make the decision to kind of like the kid that goes and enters the draft early, right? You don't get your college degree, you go into the draft early.
Yep.
And this is different because you could physically be like, you want to go into the draft as soon as possible because you never know when that you could break your ankle and then never get that back.
Yep.
You got to secure the money. I get it.
Yep.
So it's different. But if you're willing to stunt your ability to have a higher compass at evaluating or calculation of life and issues, you're willing to stunt that growth for the sake of becoming the band U2 or you to take on the role of the Fresh Prince.
Yep.
You willing to give up voting? That's at least to my that's my compromise. I make much less, but I jumped the hoops, and I am better calibrated at making the appropriate decisions, not just for my livelihood, but for our livelihood, because we're a tribe of all of us in it together. So one thing is we need to start holding accountable, inflicting the standard and responsibility on our neighbors, the expectation that if you are going to participate, everybody wants to have an influence in politics, but nobody wants to do the political homework. My position is if you're going to stunt your growth at having a strong calibration at weighing in on these issues, then you need to be able to refrain from involving yourself in the political arena. And nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do that. So you know what's an easier standard to hold people to? Is at the very least have the lowest bar of expectation, which is high school. And again, you better damn sure hope you become the band U2, because in 15 years, when you try to resell yourself back into the market, the new high school degree for our generation is a college degree, and you don't even have that. So you also don't get to come to me with your palms out going, well, take care of me. Well, take care of me. I went to go play art, man, and it didn't pay off. So, okay, you didn't take the necessary steps to make sure when this thing bottoms out, you're able to take care of yourself. Whether the rethink tank pans out or not, you have a way of putting food on your table. And if you didn't do that, then one, you don't get to come to me with your hands out, your palms out, expecting me to feed your mouths. But then also, you need to refrain yourself from impacting our lives and our issues, because I'm going to take the outward position that you are uneducated to accurately address those or weigh those issues. What's up, Doug?
So, like, I know some people without a college degree, but they have at least a high school diploma, and they're doing fine. You know, I don't know anyone, though, honestly, without a high school diploma, because most places you go to work want to at least see that you completed high school, the most basic level almost of education, or at least a GED like we talked about. Now, is college what it used to be? I'm not sure. I mean, trade schools, like you can go right out of high school and make a lot of money.
Come on, please bring up that South Park. Bring up that South Park. Bring up the South Park episode where my favorite.
Oh, the
so this
cred?
is one of the
The
few
cred?
ones that I made my dad watch, and he loved it. We're sitting there, and the beginning of it is Randy, and he's got his kids in the kitchen, and the oven stops working, and he goes, "All right, kids, I'm about to show you a very important lesson for when your equipment goes down, how to solve these issues.
How to fix an oven.
And you call the repairman." And then he calls the repairman, and the repairman's like got thousands of people that need his attention now because nobody's gone into the trades. And he's like, "Hey man, I need you to fix this, and this as well." And he's like, I can't do that for probably at least a month. I'm way booked out. And he goes, "If you do that, you're going to lose my business." And he goes, "I don't care, man. The business is booming. There's not enough of us to go around. I don't need you." And then the whole show is all the doctors and lawyers. They're the ones standing outside of Home Depot. And instead of the people selling their skill work, now it's the people standing outside of Home Depot with no skill abilities.
Trying to find someone to help.
Trying to solicit assistance on basic skills that now are going to be a super, super marketable skill. And so now the trades, dude, they're making hand over fist, as they should, because we just went through 2 decades of looking down our nose at anybody. Not everybody is a thinker. Some people are doers. And guess what? In a society, you need people working on your roads, working on your pipes, working on your electricity, just as much as you need people teaching your kids and coming up with, we need engineers, we need doctors, just as much as you need the worker ants that keep this thing supported. Well, guess what? We spit in the face of those worker ants for 2 decades, and now there's none of them. But what's cool, a symptom of that is it's one of the most high-paying jobs right now, and rightfully so. What's up, Doug?
And so with that point, the South Park episode was he needs to fix the hinge on his oven door. I have confidence I could probably tighten a screw or buy a thing. But you're absolutely right. Like if I had to, there are some things that would be basic for some people without that. Not like
also
doing
Doug,
some plumbing work.
Satire is supposed to be hyperbolic.
Oh, I know. But the thing is, the point though was you don't really need college as much as you did because these trades are doing well. Also, though, with the advent of the internet, we can also try and Google a lot of videos and help us do that. Now, a lot of people are too lazy or dumb to even do that.
YouTube can show you anything.
Yeah. I use YouTube for my job. If I need something, like I work in Excel, if I need a formula or I need a macro or a VBA, I Google it and I can find it.
Couple
Interesting
things.
fact, though, we're not allowed to use AI. Even though I could put in AI, I need a
Really?
macro that does this.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to. They don't want us using it at all until they come up with a policy for our company. Because some people were putting some of our specific information into there, like some of our programming code, going, "How can I make this better?" They're putting proprietary information. Now,
Yeah,
for my
that's-
job, it would just be a basic of, I need to do this in Excel. Give me a formula or give me a macro. Like, so that's just separate there. But
This is why like Microsoft AI, like whatever Microsoft's Bing AI or whatever their thing is actually gonna be pretty big. So my company got rid of ChatGPT, can't use it all.
yeah, not
but
allowed to use it.
you're
right now.
allowed to use the Microsoft like Office suite of things.
It's not as good though as some.
I
of them.
agree. It's not nearly it's good, but what it does is that the IT people can put restrictions on it, so that
Okay.
they're
That's
able to
what it is.
go-
They can track what you're doing. They
Yeah.
can stop it before it goes through if they have
Yeah,
certain
so that's
restrictions.
so that's why like Microsoft AI actually probably gonna be pretty big. Probably gonna be one of the bigger.
It's going to be
AIs.
big, I think, because companies can use that without and put
Yeah.
their restrictions. That's going to be huge. But real quick though, college though as well, college is important. Some companies want to see, they don't necessarily care what your major was because they can see that you put the work in and they know you'll be able to do a job. Like I majored in sports management, worked in sports for 2 years. Now, luckily, Alex and I went to a great school. And so my degree was essentially a business degree with some sports specific classes thrown in. I took accounting, business marketing, all this stuff. So that puts me a little better, but I'm in no field sports related, I work for a software company doing data related stuff. Hence why I like to use AIs to help me with formulas or macros. It just shows if you at least complete it, they're willing to give you a chance on something that's not specific to that. Now, would my company have hired just a high school diploma to do my job? Probably not. But they would have hired them to do the job I was originally hired for. And then I moved to this position. So there are jobs out there for people. I don't think it's as important as it all was. Now, high school is definitely at least important.
I was just about to say, let's just acknowledge one crazy thing. And that's Doug's talking over here about if you just complete it. What's the it? The it we're talking about is college. What's the topic? High school
But even,
dropout.
yeah, so that's the thing is like you need at least like you need a trade. To even go to trades though, you need your high school. Like you need a high school diploma to get into a trade, I'm pretty sure. So
Dougie, as I'm now
That was
just wet.
beautiful. I hope you make a clip of that.
That
I
just
do
being
too.
said,
little citrusy.
that was great.
well, I had to join the monkeys. We're all a bunch of drunk monkeys now. But that being said, I totally respect your position and I agree. But the bigger takeaway is what does this say about our cities, right? Like the cities are falling apart. We have a full acknowledgement about how about this? I was just watching Andrew Schultz on that young girl Bobby's podcast, whatever her name is. She's popping off right now. And they were on a golf course talking. They're making jokes because she goes, I'm from Paris, California. And he goes, make some joke about like how, that means it's a poor city because, there's no such thing as London, Texas. There's just one London. And he's like, there's no Paris, California. It's just, there's one Paris. And she goes, oh yeah, where are you from? And he goes, Chicago. And she's like, oh, okay, well, you win that one. But that being said, he goes, it was great. It's a beautiful city. It's absolutely perfect. Just ignore that, he goes aside from the guns and stuff or aside from and it's like, but dude, that's everything. Like, aside from everything, we're doing great. It's like, yeah, you're the epicenter of economy, money, entertainment. At the same time, you have all the homeless people. Your city is a war zone. It is literally the wild, wild west. And nobody wants to be there except for either the clout and bouginess or they're there out of desperity and stuck there. Nobody goes, oh, you know what I'd love? I'd love to live in a small space on top of 10,000 other people for an outrageous amount of money just so I could live 10 minutes away from a silver bean in Trump Tower. Like, what? Like, what are you getting out of that? Some good pizza? You have no idea how good Jet's Pizza delivers, literally and figuratively. So I'm just saying, like, these are the areas that are falling apart. You can't even get your kids to take life serious. The most basic bar. Doug's out here going on philosophical diatribes about the top tiers of our society where we can't even get the bare minimum
Even
off
for
the ground.
trades, you need a high school diploma, I'm pretty sure, right? To go to a trade school, you need a high school diploma, don't you?
Apply to go to a trade school.
Right,
but
yeah, boom, boom.
But how do you
No,
get into
I'll
trades
be real
without a
with you.
trade
You
school?
don't. You don't need a high school degree. You just need to have the trade skills. So, like, there are people that could probably get an electrical certification that don't have a high school degree. And maybe I'm talking out of turn because I will say out of the trades, high school people or electricians do have a higher standard than most. But guess who definitely doesn't need it? A carpenter. Definitely don't need it. A concrete, an excavator
like
definitely doesn't need it. A
landscapers,
landscaper, dude, half of those landscapers don't even have an ID, have an ability to vote. They just,
But do you consider landscape a trade?
yeah.
I consider like
Totally. Where do you
like
cut off-
electricity
where do
or
you cut off the
carpentry,
trade?
like where you're.
Dude, I want to emphasize.
I
Sure.
did landscaping in high school without a. Like,
Here's why
with
I
no
don't.
knowledge.
Here's why I don't want to exclude it. It is so lucrative right now. That's another business that's just like free cash. And talk to a kid that just graduated high school and invested all their money in a trailer that hauls around a good mower, a good weed whip, and a couple shovels and a rake. And that dude is racking in cash. And then I got this teacher that's like, I can't afford the pencils I got. And I go, exactly. Because you are, I'm sorry, I'm doubling down. The teachers are the warts of our society because the doctors, the lawyers, the engineers aren't incentivized to be the teachers. So all the people that go and try to do something, anything, and then all can't do, they teach, hence why it's a cliche.
I was just about to say that. I'm like, those who can't do, teach. You beat me to it by a
But dude,
second.
it's a cliche, not out of coincidence.
Well, I think that term really refers more to, I think, in the college ranks where you're a professor more so in the high school. So where do most
I don't
of your
know,
high
man. I
school-
think professors, okay, a lot of them are swept in and carried by the tenure and protection of the academic system. But at the same time, out of as somebody that's climbed to the different tiers, to go from grade school to go to bachelor's to then go to higher education for a doctorate, I got to tell you, it is so clear. College, okay, high school was just like mishmash. These were people. These were your mechanics that just happened to put on a suit. Like he was wearing a collar. I'm not a dig at mechanics. Mechanics actually had more skill than these people. These were your do-nothings. These were your bumps on the log. And yet I don't want to talk in universalities because I think all of us could point to a handful of people that were in that same realm that truly wanted to make a difference in kids' lives and successfully did, outshined all of their counterparts. But the reason I could talk blanketly about grade school teachers is because I went to a public school district and it was so very clear those that were protected, and really now looking back with experience and perspective, they were do-nothings. They were totally lacking. College, there seemed to be less of them. There seemed to be people that were confused in the liberal delusion, but they weren't uneducated. They seemed to be highly educated in a confusion, in a delusion. They were highly educated in a cult. So I'm not going to sit there and there was a stark difference between my public high school 8th grade math teacher who we caught under the hood of the chemistry lab smoking cigarettes. There's a stark difference between her and then just some confused liberal idiot that also can write well, present themselves well. Their positions actually have legs because they present them in a strong way. And all of them were buried by higher education. When you got to higher education, these were usually the professionals from that trade, whether it's law school, then you're being taught by lawyers, whether it's medical school, and then you're being taught by doctors, or you go on to these higher when accountants go on to their further education, you're not being taught that, you're being by the schmucks. You're being taught by the people that have actually experienced the trade.
Well, but I think that goes again. I think that helps my argument that they were doing at one point and they could no longer do it, so they're teaching. Where the teacher,
Hey.
let's put it the high school ranks, any sort of high school teacher that does GED teaching, that is the doing. They're teaching. They go to school to teach. Where most typically, if you're going to be a professor in accounting, you're not.
So you're telling me you could point to a high school teacher and go, you could be a doctor or a lawyer.
Let's not.
At least the doctor
that's
that's
kinda where I
teaching
was-
medical
they're not
school.
teaching. They're not teaching doctors or lawyers. They're not teaching you in
Right,
high school.
But the only reason, again, if the doctor prodigy that they're teaching, so you're saying this person, that your argument is furthered because the doctor teaching medical school clearly failed to reach the standard of medicine or being a doctor. So they've defaulted to being a teacher. But the problem is with that point is they are teaching prodigy doctors to become future doctors, which means they obviously adequately meet the standard of what it is to be a doctor or what it means to teach to be a doctor, because they are molding the future doctors that will and are successfully meeting the standard of doctors. So I want to say that the doctor that is teaching prodigy doctors has the ability at such a significantly higher capacity to be that doctor than a teacher who's just been teaching. And that is a sentiment to skill and ability.
No, I think the medical. I think in the medical thing that might be a little bit different. So let's go like football coaching. So let's just go straight to like Ryan.
Well,
Day.
but that's
Ryan Day was a
physical
quarterback
versus versus capacity.
Well, but like I think
some
quarterback
teachers are
is a
only
bit more
teachers.
based on capacity versus physical. So let's just use like Tom Brady's example. Isn't the most freakish athlete in the world. He was built in a quarterback structure, but he had it upstairs to be able to go through the progressions, read defenses, where there's definitely other quarterbacks out there who just can't do that. Like a Justin Fields or a Baker Mayfield. They just don't quite, they have the physical gifts to be able to do it. They don't have the actual mental traits to be able to be the most successful at it. Be like Tom Brady isn't going to be a coach in the height of his career. So when we go with those who can't teach, that implies that they at least did it and have to go down and kind of teach down the other ranks. Where like high school teachers, that's where I disagree with this, because high school teachers, that is their doing. That's what they went to school for. That is their profession. Where you're I think that term you can't do.
And
teach
I'm
goes
saying
more
they're
to-
doing that because they literally can't do anything else.
well, that's what
Like
they- that's what
my
they
point
came to
is
do,
the
though.
doctor professor can still go be a doctor, can still go do something else. Even if it's not, just theoretically,
Okay.
if they can't meet the mark of being a doctor, again, theory, this is just
I
theory.
understand.
If the lowest rung is teaching, because we've acknowledged that trades are higher than that because they're making significantly more. So if the lowest rung is teaching and the highest rung is doctor, lawyer, engineer, okay?
Okay.
If you're saying they went down to teaching doctors, lawyers, and engineers because they can't meet the mark of being a doctor, lawyer, engineer, that also means, though, and it blindly, they could be anything that is higher than the lowest rung. They have the capacity to be a welder, be a pipe man, be a sales manager, all of those being higher than teacher. My point is, unfortunately, what we're dealing with as a culture, as a nation, is that those at the lowest rung of teaching, grade school, they can't go do something else. That's why they're there. You would make a great teacher. Do not sell yourself short. I am not full of hubris, but I also feel I could confidently say I'd be an incredible teacher. My sister, who is a pharmacist, would be an incredible teacher. Brian would be an incredible teacher, an engineer. None of us chose that. And there is a reason. And it's because it isn't lucrative. There is zero advantage to doing that. So my thing is, yeah, they're doing it. You're right in saying it. But my point is they're only doing that because they literally can't do anything else. And I know that's a cruel reality, but I have to start saying it verbatim, blatantly, because we need to restructure our society so that isn't a fact. It isn't a truth. Incentivize that to being one of the most fruitful occupations in your country, and you will see the trickle-down effect that, one, it then attracts like a moth to a light. It attracts all the higher capacity members of your society to taking on that role. Now there's an incentive. And then the trickle-down is it then has a significantly higher impact on all of those kids that are now being carried with them.
Well, I definitely agree with your last part. I think we paint with too broad of a brush here. That I think teaching is a profession of passion. There's a lot of people that go that is one of the most fruitful occupations you could have, just to see, there is, it's one of the very few occupations too. It's like sales. You see like a direct correlation where, oh, you impact, you see it right happen. Like where even like with politics, you don't necessarily see the direct impact of some of your policies come down through the road until way later. Or like engineering. Well, I'm engineering the screw. The screw is eventually going to go to this car, but I don't see that for a while. So that's one of those. It is very much a passion. It's a passion project, and anyone who wants to be there that is passionate about it, I think you're going to do a great job at it. And I don't think those are the teachers we're really talking about. I think where I will agree with you on some of your points here, that there is probably a contingent that sees weekends, summer, kind of some of the benefits of teaching, that like, well, I like all the benefits. I like all the aspects, early retirement, all that. I just got to deal with the teaching part. Those are probably the people we're not the best at. Or, teaching does probably, like with the cops, attracts a certain type of person that loves authority and attention. And if that's what you like, that's probably, those are not exactly positive traits.
See, but again, I don't mean to kick a point while it's down. But this does double back to a position I would take in law school. I'm sitting there and I'm super stressed because the bottom 20% of every semester gets cut. And so there's a very cutthroat environment. It's very competitive, and we were a unique school trying to, make a name for itself. So where most schools stopped that by the end of the second year, we did it all through the third year. So that means your last semester of law school, 20% of the class is getting cut again, and it's still ultra competitive. You're sitting there full of anxiety. Every semester you're like on edge. Am I going to be, cut? And what would that mean for me? And where does that leave me? What are my options? Even above a teacher, the option was being a police officer. And I make the comment all the time, how sad is it that if I failed law school or failed the bar and never was able to become an attorney, the thing I would say into my head that would bring some ease is I could always become a cop. I could always become a cop. Even if I fail this, I could become a cop. And the scary reality to that statement is there is a higher standard to being the person that defends you from the law than the standard of being the law. The standard of being the law is lower than being the attorney that defends you from it. That's a scary reality. Again, with teaching, me and you are dancing around the same bush because we both agree that this should be one of your most important fields of attention in a society.
Yeah.
That these should be the highest focus. This is where we need to give our attention and resources. And it's the total forgotten field.
Opposite.
It's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So the sky is blue, the grass is green. They're all idiots that can't do anything, but this isn't an unfixable situation. It's very fixable. You just need to make it fruitful and lucrative. All right, let's bring it to wrapping thoughts before we get to Ricky. Doug. Wrapping thoughts.
So to better phrase the words I said before, all right, like college, I think still is very important. Very important. Trades, though, becoming more important, like we touched on. Now, going to college is important. What you major in, I think, is becoming less important because it just shows that you have the skills to adapt and learn. So that's kind of the point I was getting at. Now, you should, at the very least, have a high school diploma because, like, if you show that you couldn't even finish high school, like maybe you were going to acting or whatever in California. That's California. But what about the other states that have bad? Like, that's California. Okay, maybe. So it's pretty scary that a lot of these people are not getting high school diplomas because you at least need that to show that you can complete something. Like, what employer is going to want to hire you if they go, oh, you quit high school? Well, are you just going to quit me?
Right.
Are you willing to even learn this job? Like, anything that involves training before doing it, at least having a high school diploma shows you're willing to finish something. And goes back to my college point. You at least get a diploma. You're ahead of those people that only got a high school, whether or not you're in your field that you're in, because it just better proves that you're willing to learn and better yourself to get those skills you need. So it's scary that a lot of these states have such poor high school. And it's scary that California wants to tell the rest of the country what we should do with their laws. Like, oh, you got to have all EV by 2030 or whatever it is, well, they're trying to tell the rest of the country what we should be doing. Well, maybe they should focus more on getting their state up to standard. I mean, it doesn't matter what they're doing after. Maybe some of them are going off to better careers. It is scary that how low they are.
I could appreciate that. Ricky, rapid thoughts.
So California was once the prosperous state, right? So back to the revolving door. It's gonna be another state soon. People's gonna migrate from there. It's gonna all happen over until this whole system collapses. But it goes to family structure, and if the government is actually putting money into the funds of education and that for it.
just to comment on you there, Ricky, California has to be putting their money towards education. I mean, they are making all these social laws and all these laws giving money to all these things. I find it hard to believe they're not giving enough money to these things. I think it's,
Oh yeah,
you know, like it might be.
So is
family
this
stuff, but
report
it's definitely
sham
not the state
or
not supporting.
Ricky, I don't know if you saw, but the person at the head, so they were investing like billions of dollars into the homeless problem, and the organizations that were accepting the funding and monitoring these programs, every single person in the state of California were employed by these programs were making at least six figures. And I'm not going to deny the price to live in California.
yeah, it's the like cost of living that's
right,
California,
cost
you
of
know.
living.
That's also probably part of the problem there too, is how much it costs, how much money they then have to spend. So then they don't probably have
They
as
gotta
much.
spend
as they
more to
want.
get their
So a
dollars.
homeless person, their $5 can't exist there.
Yeah.
So
And there's a lot of gang violence in California too, man.
that's a
There's
great
a
point,
lot of
too.
people that don't want to go to school because they're trying to avoid problems and stuff like that. They may go find a trade, as y'all said earlier, but they just drop in, go to Job Corps, or get a GED or something, you know.
And let's acknowledge the, rock and the hard place we forced California into, right? We're pointing at them, look at your problem with all your homeless folk. And then we're sitting there going, well, one, even if you were to allocate resources to them, it's not enough resources to live in your area. But then we're going, don't even think about shipping them out of there. Like they're with you.
In fact, we're
And-
shipping them.
Yeah, we're shipping
You
them
have the better weather. We don't want them to freeze to death
Yeah.
here. So it's actually more humane if they're over on your fence.
Exactly. So they can't afford to live there, but we also won't let them send them to a place where they could, better afford life. Yeah. So wrapping thoughts, I kind of like the round robin we had here. Clearly, there's a bigger social dialogue to be had about where we are as a nation academically, and obviously that requires our attention. It's a scary place to be, but it's fixable. It's clearly fixable. And to me, the answer is a restructuring and a true dialogue on the social hierarchy of our professional economy. Like, I'm not saying doctors, lawyers, and, engineers shouldn't be the highest paid, but it's very sad that not only are teachers on the opposite side of that spectrum, but they really should be, and not just higher up, they should be one of the number one focused roles in your society. David, wrapping thoughts?
No, I agree with that. I think teachers should be a lot more respected in what they are, but I don't know if I don't think throwing money at the problem is going to help alleviate the situation. I think we have an issue with how we focus on at least high school education in this country. I think we take college education very seriously for the most part. And I think it's a symptom where you see California has a lot of things to do, and education might not be on the highest priority on a lot of these people's lists, along with some of the gang violence, along with some of just the general appetite. There's probably isn't a whole lot of family structure there, because it is a state of transplants. It's kind of they've worn that on their sleeves. So when you don't have that family structure to be able to keep you in there, it's like, hey, you have other options. That's always been kind of rooted in the blood of California. We're here, we have options, we can do whatever we want. So that probably trickles down into the way they reflect with education. And there's probably just also just a lot of underprivileged people there as well that help with that. And I think Texas, we're probably going to, just as we saw with the graph, I think Texas is going to be the next probably biggest one here.
And it can't be because the border is a sieve, right? That has nothing to do with it.
I'm sure that probably has something to do with it. But I think it
was convenient that the top two lowest states happen to be right on the border. I
know I was going to bring that up.
coincidence.
And then, of course, all of the states, looking at the graph, that have most completion are all the northern states. But that's just,
well, I think that's also a bit more of a symptom of
Coincident,
some of the family structures that are in there. It's probably easier to live in Montana. It's hard. I don't want to say it's harder to be poor in Montana, but it's definitely a little bit more difficult to be poor in Montana.
and you can't drop out and go somewhere in Montana.
Correct. And it's education, and well, I got my education, so I can go out of Montana. So I think education does need to be prioritized. How we go about it,
It's a whole nother.
That's a whole. We can go down like a whole spider's nest worth of different ways we can do that. Brian, what do you think?
Rapid thoughts.
So I think one thing to kind of universally talk across the board, they say in the neuroscience, the study of the brain and how it works, is the more things that you do that you're uncomfortable with, even if it's justifiable as not that bad, if you just do it, your brain expands, and it allows you to become a lot more diverse and able to overcome adversity. And I think with teaching, when they have the same criteria every semester, every year, it kind of dwindles on your ability to be able to be overcome adversity, and that's what we see across the board in our high school and our grade school teachers, when they are just doing the same thing every year and they're not trying to spice it up in any way. I always thought teaching grade school and stuff would be a very fruitful career path, as far as holidays and not taking the hard route of trying to improve every year or doing anything, because once you have a good system that works, you kind of just can skate by, and you have your summers and all your guaranteed just money there. But I could see how it doesn't pay off as far as like handiwork and trades. I think the people that get more education and go more outside of their comfort zone um, should get paid a lot of money, just like a doctor or a lawyer or whoever is pushing themselves. And they say that athletes tend to have the highest neuro
Output.
space
Okay.
where they can overcome problems, because they're constantly having to push themselves further to keep their career going and always maintain their bodies. So just a little food for
okay.
your thought.
No,
There we
that's
go.
fascinating. That being said, we appreciate you guys coming along for the ride and staying with us throughout this whole process. There was a lot of people in the comments. We thank you for expanding the dialogue and giving some extra perspective to the conversation. I want to thank my good friend Ricardo Wright. Ricky out there from Not Just Another Day TV, thank you for joining us, brother, as always. Can you please tell them where they can find you?
Just Another Day TV on all platforms. Thank you very much, Alex. I appreciate you, boys. Great conversation today. I'll be safe this week.
Hey,
glad to have
we
you,
love
Ricky.
Ricky. Every time it's always a blessing. I appreciate you joining us. That being said, thanks to Dougie and Jake over there in the pickle gallery joining us. Guys, we appreciate you guys commenting, liking, sharing. That's what really helps the show. We again another fun night. Free entertainment to you with nothing but a good. If we made you laugh, if we made you think, the best thing you could do to support this show is share that link. So please copy that link and send it to a friend. Post it on your Facebook. If you enjoyed it, that means someone will also. So please help us out and give back to something that we really enjoy. And we want to just continue to thank you for being a part of it. Every time, I'm watching Brian over there clicking away and engaging with the comments, and oftentimes you guys bring some of the best perspectives, things that we haven't touched upon or thought about, and that's the element that the show needs, and that's the whole reason we go live. So again, thank you. We go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. So join us next week. I'm not going to be here. So David's going to be at the helm driving us, because I'm going to be at Geneva, bringing the world together. But that being said, we appreciate you guys. And Brian and I do a live show every Sunday at 9 a.m. Rethink Actions. Unfortunately, this Sunday will probably be the last for just about 2 weeks, and then Brian and I will be back. But then Brian's going to Colorado, so it might be like a 3-week hiatus. But go over to Rethink Actions. It's our reactions channel. There's a lot of funny internet videos, and we have a good time there every Sunday. So check us out there at 9 a.m. But if you're looking where to find the Rethink Take and all of its great content, like the awesome badass So Here's Where I'm At episode about Shane Gillis beating cancel culture and taking over SNL, which is coming out this Friday. If you want to find any of that content and where you can find it, it's all centralized on our website at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. Head there, and on our homepage, it'll take you to our clips channel and any of our other channels where we're going live every week. So again, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next week. Peace.